All right, hello boys, girls, ladies and gentlemen. This is your buddy Mr. G. We're going to continue our lesson on the basics of Photoshop about putting our images into files and setting that up. When we last left off, we were in our classwork and we were working on our assignment Photo Basics 1 here, where we're going to turn in one JPEG and one screenshot for the first part. And I'm going to jump over here to Photoshop. So we put in a JPEG and a screenshot of this file here where we got an astronaut, she's on the right, and then I've got an elephant, he's on the left there, okay? All right, so that's where we left off. Then we took a screenshot by hitting Command, Shift, and the number 3 and turned those two in. For the second part of this, we're going to do a little bit of manipulation of our image, and we're going to talk a little bit more about navigating around in Photoshop. Okay, so I'm going to pull myself up here. The first thing I want you to notice is that we have the bounding box. We talked about the bounding box, and as I click on these different layers, you see that I get that bounding box that goes around there that I can take and I can resize and adjust that. I can turn and rotate, and as we talked about last week, that we can take and use a modifier key like our Shift key, and we can actually start to squish and stretch those. Anytime we do that, what we're doing is called a transformation. We need to take and hit this little check mark up here or hit our return key, and that will confirm that transformation, that we're going to accept that shift in size and shape or rotation so that Photoshop knows you want to accept that and move on. If you don't hit that check mark, it won't let you move on until you accept it and let Photoshop know what you're doing. Okay, so I want to manipulate, and we're going to play with the elephant here, and we want to keep the astronaut from moving around and accidentally clicking on her, okay? Now that's kind of hard because anytime I click in this white space, I accidentally grab her there, okay? So part of that is because I have this auto select feature on here, and I could turn that off, but then I have to go and select the layer. So I like having that on, so I don't want to turn that off. What I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and go down here to my astronaut layer. First of all, let's change the name of that. Let's double click on that. And let's call that astronaut. Okay, once we have that in there, I'm going to go here, I'm going to click on that layer. I've got the bounding box, tells me it's selected, and it's highlighted here in my layers panel. I'm going to click this little padlock, and that's going to lock that layer. Now I won't accidentally grab her and move around. You can see she's kind of locked into place there until I unlock her. And to unlock her, I simply click the lock, and now she is unlocked. Now, I'm going to go ahead and keep her locked for right now. We've changed that, and we're going to play with our elephant here. I'm going to click on the elephant. I got the bounding box here. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is just general navigation, okay? So we can zoom in and out. We do have a zoom tool here, our magnifying glass, and we can click, 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 click. And if I hold down my Option key, it'll go negative, and I can click back out, okay? Now, in the Mac Lab, we have touchpads, and I'm on a laptop here, so I also have a touchpad. So with the touchpad, I'm going to hit V and get my keyboard, my move tool again. I can do the same thing by just pinching and pulling. By taking my fingers and pinching out or pinching in will allow me to zoom in and out. Okay, so that's very cool. I also have right above that is the hand tool. The hand tool allows me to take and move about. So if I zoom in, I can go around like that, okay? And then I can zoom out again, okay? Now again, with my touchpad, I don't use this tool very often because if I go back to my move tool, okay, if I use 2 fingers on my touchpad instead of the 1 finger, I can use and move it around, okay? So I'll just take 2 fingers on my image and I can zoom in and I can move around, okay? So I have my hand tool, which is right there, or the space bar for your keyboard, or you can use the zoom tool, which is Z on your keyboard, but I just pinch and pull and use 2 fingers to navigate around, okay? Now, about zooming in, you see that you can go all the way down until we've got the entire image made out of boxes. That's as far as I can go, okay? Now, once I'm all the way in, a lot of times it gets confusing about where I'm at or how to get back out. So if I hit Command and the number 0, it resets my whole workstation so that I have it recentered there. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we got some basic navigation in there. We can zoom, we can pan, we can reset our frame. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shrink my elephant down to about that size right there, about a quarter of my space over here, about 1/8 of the page there. Okay, I'm going to commit that by hitting the check mark up at the top. Okay, now I'm going to show you 3 different ways that we can duplicate it. We already talked about one. When we put our astronaut in, we copied and we pasted it, right? We can do the same thing within the file it's in. So I can click on this. Now up here I can go to my edit file, just like every program, copy, paste, and clear all up here in the edit. So there is copy, which is Command C. There's the quick key. So I'm going to use the quick key for this and just go ahead and hit Command C as in cat. And I'll copy that, and then I'm going to go and paste it, and the quick key right there is Command and V, so I'm going to use that, and I'm going to say Command V to paste it, and it will paste me a second elephant up there. Okay, so that's one way that we can quickly copy and paste things, is with the copy and paste commands. Another way we can duplicate things is if we go to our layer over here. Okay, so I've got my layer here, and if I right click on that, I get this option menu that comes up here. Now this is very specific. Okay, if I right click on my thumbnail, I get that menu. If I right click on the layer over here, I get this menu. If I double click on the word, it changes the word, and if I double click on the space, it gives me the layer style matching. So where you click and how you click is very specific on this. Okay, what we do, I'm going to do right click right here on an empty space on my layer. Up here I have the option to duplicate layer. So I'll duplicate layer. It asks me what you want to call it. I'm just going to call it African elephant copy. I'll say OK. And I get another layer here. Okay, but when I click on my eyeball and everything, it doesn't look like anything happened. It did actually. It placed it directly over top of that one. So that's convenient if I ever want to put an object and put it completely right on top and not have to worry about realigning it. So that's very helpful. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and shrink this elephant down to about here because I'm going to duplicate a whole bunch of them really quickly. Okay, now the fastest way I find by far to duplicate, I resize that, so I need to go up here and commit that. Okay, fast way I found by far to duplicate items is by holding down the Option key with the Move. Now what I mean by that, I'm going to make sure I have my Move tool. I hit V on the keyboard, and as I hold my cursor over top of my elephant there, I'm going to hold down the Option key, and you'll see my cursor turns to a double cursor there when I hold that down. Now if I hold that down while clicking and dragging, I can quickly drag out multiples of that object, and I quickly made 4 copies very quickly there. Okay, now that's very handy. Now this also works if I select multiple layers. If I click and drag with my Move tool, you'll see I can select all 4 of those layers. They're all highlighted, and if I hold down my Option key, I can hold and I can pull out copies of that very quickly. Okay, so that's very helpful. So there's 3 different ways that you can copy images, right? So you can copy and paste, you can duplicate a layer, or you can hold down the Option and click and drag. Either one of those are all going to get you the same result. Every time you make a copy, you're going to get a new layer in here. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is how to reflect something or make a mirror image of it. Okay, so we went ahead, if I click on this element, we can change everything. I can squish, I can rotate, I can even take it and pull it inside out of itself, and it will flip all the way around. But I can't really make a mirror image. I'm going to go Command Z, Command Z. To make a mirror image, I have to do, I can't use it with the handles. I have to grab a command elsewhere. Okay, now up here, if I click on here and I go to edit, I have all my transform, and there's my scale, rotate, skew, distort, perspective, and warp. All those we can do with the handles on that bounding box. The ones we can't do, and rotate as well, are these flip horizontal and flip vertical. So I can click them right down here, but those are also available once I go to resize it right here on this little pop-up box. You'll see that I can reflect either horizontal or vertical. So I'm going to make a reflection of that last thing I do, and if I did vertical, it would go that way. So I'm going to hit Command Z. I'm going to leave it just like that. This is what I want yours to look at. I'll go ahead and commit that. And we're going to turn this in again as saving as a JPEG. So you're going to go to File, and you're going to save a copy. You want to save this copy as John Grosvenor Photo Basics copy. And we're going to make this Photo Basics 2. So as it's always called, your first and last name. Mine is John Grosvenor, so I'm going to put John Grosvenor. You're going to put your own name. Oh, my light went out. And I'm going to change that to Photo Basics 2. Okay, and then we're going to change this to a JPEG, and then we will save that to Cookie Fingers and press OK. And then we'll take a screenshot, Command Shift the number 3 will give us our screenshot. That will go to our desktop. So if we go Command and Tab, go back over to our Google Classroom. You're going to go into this assignment, and to finish up, you should have 4 files. Just said Photo Basics 1, Photo Basics 2 in JPEG form, and you will attach your screenshot for Photo Basic 1 and your screenshot for Photo Basic 2 in there. And remember, those go to your desktop. Screenshots are on your desktop. All right, if you have any questions, send me an email. Be creative, and I'll talk to you soon.